These 10 people will bring you fix and flip deals. One of my big goals is to keep a steady stream of deals coming in. And one of the most fun ways to do that is having people actually call and bring them to you. And I do my own marketing and outreach strategy, but there's nothing better than getting a call saying, Ryan, I've got another deal for you to take a look at. So I want to talk to you about some ways you can actually use these people to help bring deals to you. I made a friend, and these guys went around and they found properties that were going through a probate situation, somebody that had actually passed away. But they didn't want to deal with the rehab and the fix-ups or anything else, so they would actually just wholesale the property to me. That's what they did, is they'd find a deal and call me, and every so often I get a phone call saying, hey Ryan, I've got another deal. I bought several properties from them. It worked out extremely well, and I'm super glad that I had that relationship. That's one of those where someone actually called and just said, hey, I've got a deal for you, and I made that through making a relationship. The other one that you can look at is probate attorneys. So these are attorneys that actually work with people that don't have a will in place. If somebody passes away and they don't have a will in place, then the property then has to be determined by the court where it goes. If you have a will in place, it says this is where it goes and doesn't have to go in front of a judge to make that decision. So that's this whole idea of probate attorney. Probate attorneys want to get this transaction over with, and one of the big things is the property needs to get taken care of. So a cash offer can be really nice in that situation. Keep in mind, lots of times these properties are not in good condition, need lots of work. Grandpa's kept it together with baling wire. And so it's a great opportunity for everybody. You can bring in and pay cash for the property. The deal can close right away. The probate attorney can take care of the whole thing. And then the family gets some money. They can all devise up. One of the things I find a lot with probate is you usually have some infighting. You'll have some brothers and sisters that are just upset with each other, haven't talked to each other in years. There's usually a lot of feelings involved with that. And so one of the great blessings that we can bring as real estate investors is making it go away, having it done. Like, we can do the money, we can do it now, and it makes it go away so they can move on and hopefully reconcile or not have to deal with each other if that's so their choice. I hope it's not, but you know how it goes. Okay, next, let's talk about REO agents. I had a guy named Steven who brought me multiple deals. He was actually an attorney and he was an REO agent, but he would call me every time he would have another deal. It'd be one of his clients and he would say, hey Ryan, I've got a deal. You want to pick that deal up? That was really nice to get those phone calls. So I'd take a great look at that and pick those deals up. He knew I was reliable and dependable and follow through on what I said. He knew I was for real, so he didn't have to worry about a bunch of jokers that never did what they said they would do or close on the property. And that leads me to my next one, which is divorce attorneys, okay? Typically, when you're dealing with a divorce, there's money tied up in that property. And in some cases, somebody can stay in the property, but in other cases, they actually need to sell the property, either because they can't afford to live there anymore because they went from 2 incomes down to 1 income, or because there's equity in the property and the other spouse needs that equity out of the property. Now, it's not always the case. Sometimes somebody will stay in the home, but there's a good probability if someone's going through a divorce that they will need to get rid of a house. One of the things that can make that very helpful is getting a cash offer on that property to settle things. Lots of times this house becomes the most contentious thing in this divorce, and people are like, I just want it over with. So even if I take a little less money just to have it over with and I can move on with my life, that's going to be so much better. So we can offer a great service to people that are going through a divorce and purchasing that property. And that's where divorce attorneys come in. Next one I want to talk to you about is also attorneys, and this is bankruptcy attorneys. You see, when somebody goes through a bankruptcy, they may need to get rid of their house. Their house may be the cause of them spending too much money or having some issues. They'll probably do everything they can to save it, but there are going to be situations where someone just needs to get rid of the house. Now, the house, if you do a purchase on that, the bankruptcy is going to have to approve that transaction. That's what the attorney is going to go through and make happen. But there are going to be cases these attorneys have where selling the house is the best thing, especially if that house is not in great condition. A cash buyer becomes really, really important. And that leads me to my next step, which is just simply a buyer's agent. There are agents out there that will go help you find properties. Now, I don't recommend this as your primary strategy. I think you've got to be working on finding off-market properties. But what we do believe in is a thing called MLS Sniper. It's a way of looking at properties that are undervalued, that have equity, and working with that agent to go ahead and find that property for you and get it under contract. It's a great way of finding properties. Next I want to talk about is mortgage brokers. You see, you'll get these situations where a mortgage broker has someone that wants to buy a new house, but they don't have their existing house sold yet. And they're going to get into a situation where it's like, we really want to just move the new house. And so lots of times what will happen is they'll take less money for their existing house so they can move into their new house to have a quick closing, like within a week or something like that. That can be an opportunity for an investor to come in, pick up that property, and then the transaction on the purchase can happen, especially when somebody's like, you know what, it's more important for me to buy this house than save equity that I may have in my old house. I'm happy to give that on to an investor so I can move on to this new property that we love and want to move into. Next one I want to talk about is life insurance agents. When somebody is getting life insurance, at some point, we're all going to pass away. And when that occurs, the family is going to have a property they're going to have to deal with. So the life insurance agent is going to get that phone call and say, unfortunately, somebody passed away. We need to get access to that money. And the life insurance agent say, what's your plans for the property? Do you mind if I refer you over to somebody that can help buy properties regardless of the condition? And that can work out really well. Not to be morbid, but we're going to stay on this death subject for just a minute. And we're going to talk about funeral planners. Funeral planners have a great relationship with the family. They're the ones that are putting that funeral together. And if you have relationships with the funeral planners and say, hey, if you need some help with a property, I know someone that can help you. May I give them your name and number? And that gets really important here. One of the best things you can do is train people how to give you referrals. That's one thing just to hand out your card. That's one thing. But the other thing, and what I like to have happen, is that they say they get permission to give me the number. So a funeral planner could be meeting with a family. What are your plans with the house? There's some problems. Then he can say, you know, I've got a friend that helps people in real estate situations, especially if the property needs a lot of work. Would it be okay if I passed your number along to him? That's the key, because I want him to call me with the number, text me with the number, and then I will call them. That's so much better than just handing out a business card. So you got to train each one of these people, and you've got to network with these guys, all these different people that can bring you deals. And that leads me into my next one, which is roofing and plumbing companies. There is nothing worse as a homeowner than getting a huge bill because your sewer system went out, the main line for the water went out, your roof is caving in, and it's a huge repair that you just don't have the money to deal with. Lots of times people will be able to give you referrals if they're a roofer or plumber, and in those cases you can actually even pay them for the referral. Hey, I'll give you 20 bucks for anybody that ends up not financially be able to do it, and if I buy the house, I'll give you $1,000. You know, something like that can work. If they abuse it, then you make some modifications. That's just a way to kind of get started here. Next, I want to talk about senior living financial counselors. This is, I think, number 11. So this is a bonus for you guys. Senior living financial counselors. This is when somebody's getting moved into a senior living facility. The financial counselor is the one that meets with them and say, how are you going to afford to pay for this? Lots of times people get put into these homes that they don't have enough money for a long time to be there because it's all tied up in their house. So I bought a house a couple of years ago where they had enough money to get grandpa into the home, but all of his money was tied up in his property, and the property was in really bad disrepair. But they needed that money right away because they needed to pay next month's bill to help grandpa out. So I was able to purchase the property as is. One of the things that I like to do with these, whether that's funeral planners or senior living or those things to help out the family, one of the things that's really hard with this is it's very emotional. So one of the services I offer as an investor for them is I say, hey, go through the property and get whatever you want, but don't worry about the stuff you don't want. Because lots of times they're like, we got to clean out the property, we got to do this, we got to do that. And I say, no, you don't have to do any of that. What you need to do is get the stuff that's meaningful to you. Everything else, just leave it. Don't worry about it. Just leave it. Then I have them sign a form that says I get everything that's on the property. And it's not because I want what's on the property. We're just going to throw that stuff away. But it's a lot easier for me to throw it away than it is for them to throw it away. And it's a lot easier and faster for them just to go in and get the stuff they want out rather than me having to wait months for them to actually get the house cleared out. It's also less of an emotional toll for them where they can just go through and get the things that are actually meaningful and have a great experience with that rather than having to go through all the garbage and everything that's there. And no, I'm not trying to like find money in the cushions or in a book or whatever the case is. That's not my intent whatsoever. My intent is to make it faster, easier, simpler, less emotional. We just get a dumpster and throw everything in. It's a lot easier for us to throw things in the dumpster than it is for the family members to do that. So we say, get everything out of there that you like, anything of value, anything of money, anything that has a memory for you. Get those things, but leave everything else so you don't have to worry about that. And that takes a load off people when they're dealing with an emotional passing of somebody as well. I've got another video on why hard money is the backbone of fix and flip funding. You're gonna wanna check out this video, you're gonna like it. I go into why hard money comes before finding a property, why every deal should start with finding a hard money lender, and what to look for. So if you're interested in these 10 ways, 11 ways, because I gave you a bonus, on finding these properties with people calling you, you're gonna wanna line up your hard money, take a look at this video, and make it a very profitable day.